everyone, and thanks for joining me on this inaugural episode of a new series on truck camping and restoring this truck camper. So on this first episode, I'm going to give you a rundown of this whole camper that I bought and show you what my plans are for the future in it. But first I wanted to go into a few things about this series. First off, I want this series to be very transparent. I'm going to lay out all of the costs that I've put into the camper and into my truck so that it can actually haul this thing. And I want to break it down piece by piece. I'm going to keep a little tracker of all the expenses I've had because you don't really see that too often in these videos. A lot of people don't really show how much money or effort they've put into this. And I also just want to make this a fun process, kind of documenting the adventure of restoration before the adventure of traveling in it, and hopefully the realities of truck life. I know van life on Instagram and on YouTube is pretty glamorized, and not a lot of videos show the harsh realities of it, and I want to do that as well. Hopefully after this thing is built, Tara and I will take off in it traveling, assuming that it's acceptable to do so with the virus going on. I'm going to try to make this video as fast as I can, but there's a lot of content to cover this first time. My first thing I want to do is tell you why I ended up with this truck camper. So like I said, I've been debating truck life, just sleeping in, actually I'll show you. This little cab was already on my truck. I've debated camping out of that, which is doable, but for two people long term, not ideal. It's pretty tight quarters. And I've been looking into vans. Long story short, my main goal was maintaining a high mile per gallon, which although this truck does not get the best gas mileage, it does get much better than most vans do. And then second tenet was very high accessibility. So I want to be able to go out into the desert, into Moab, into high mountain roads in Colorado or in North Carolina even, and get to places where your average camper or your average van can't get to. I've got the pretty capable four-wheel drive, and with a camper on the back of the truck, it can pretty much go anywhere I need to go. Now that said, there are some modifications I'm going to have to do to my truck to get it up to snuff to haul this thing where it needs to go, but that'll come in a later video. I really like the idea of a van because it's self-contained, you've got a lot of room, a lot of comfort there, but ultimately this truck camper, I think, there are 4x4 vans, but not in my price range, not even close. So hopefully this truck camper will allow us to get way into the backwoods and away from people and into some cool places. Beyond that, the price point of these campers, you can get them for a lot cheaper than you can get into a van for. And also, if this doesn't work out, I can sell it. I still have my truck and it's reliable. So it just seemed like a win-win situation. I did look into some trailers at first, and I really like the Scamp fiberglass 13-foot trailers. If you haven't checked out Elsa Ray and Baron on YouTube, I'll put a link in the description. They've got some excellent camping videos out of their trailer that they haul with a Subaru. If you like my videos, I feel like you would probably like their videos. Ultimately, I decided a trailer I can pull to a lot of places, but there are going to be places where I can't turn around or back up a trailer. And I think this might just be the better solution for us. Oh, and before we do the tour, let me lay out some quick facts about this camper. It's a 2003 Sun-Lite Skyhawk camper, one of the few campers that fit a 6-foot long Tacoma bed and that are actually lightweight enough for the Tacoma to carry. It is around a little under 1,000 pounds dry, so it does fit within the payload capacity of the Tacoma, but just barely. And if you saw the loading unloading video, how much my suspension lifted after it came off, I'm definitely gonna have to upgrade my suspension, probably with airbags, so that's gonna be another expense. I'll do a video on that another time. Oh, so cost. I bought this, I've been scouring Craigslist for truck campers and vans and trailers for a long time now and looking for deals. There are not a lot of these that pop up, and especially not a lot that actually will fit on a Tacoma or a smaller mid-sized truck. So when this popped up, I acted pretty fast and ended up, the guy listed it for $5,800. I ended up giving him $5,200 for this. A few days later, I feel like I probably overpaid. I mean, you can find some of these truck campers for really good deals, but a lot of them are trashed and just rotten. The wood's rotten. They need to be almost completely redone. This one has good structure. There's going to be things that definitely need to be cleaned up and changed, and hopefully no structural issues. We checked it out pretty well, but we'll see. But yeah, like I said, I wish I would have gotten it for a lot less. That is a big chunk of money for me, more than I ever cared to spend, but it got this camper and the bones are good. I think it's gonna work out. We'll see. What do you all think? For a truck camper, does $5,200 sound crazy, or is that a good deal? I don't really know. But enough talking, let's do a quick tour of the camper before renovations start. Okay, so I've switched over to the GoPro here. Sorry if the audio is not quite as good. These things just don't have great mics on them. But this will give us a much wider angle view so we can actually capture what the inside of this trailer looks like. So I'm gonna just do a really quick gloss over of all of the features of this thing and what it looks like. If you have any questions that I don't address in the video, feel free to leave them in the comments and I'll try to reply to all of them. I know when I was looking at truck campers, I really didn't know much about them or what they can do or what they look like. So hopefully this helps you all out. All right, so this is what it looks like. Right now it's up on jacks off the truck, and these you can lift up with a hand crank, or there's actually an adapter for the drill that allows you to raise and lower them much quicker. And these are how you store the camper when it's not on the truck. You can actually, if you pull into a campsite, you can set up the jacks, load the camper down onto the ground, and then take off if you need to go somewhere. To be realistic, when I'm going full-time traveling, I think I'm going to be taking the jacks off just to save some weight, but that is an option. All right, this is what the entrance looks like, and this is where the back of the truck will be. It's got a little half-size door, so you do have to kind of duck when you get in, but it's really not too bad. Back here you've got an electrical access, the door stopper. These are the clamps that hold the topper down when it's not popped up when you're traveling, and just a little accessory light. As you can see, although the condition is not bad on this, there are definitely parts that need to be addressed, like the rust on these, and just all of these little plastic parts are pretty faded. The plastic on the door is faded. I want to redo all of that and make it look really nice, and just update it so it's waterproof and good to go, safe to travel with. All right, this is the left side, or the driver's side. Some vents from the furnace that's in there. This is the back of the fridge area and access to the fridge panel. The fridge is a 3-way fridge, so it runs off propane, electricity AC, or electricity DC. And this whole setup is primarily built for a propane setup, which I really want to move away from in the future. I'm not a big fan of it. It is very easy to use and pretty cheap, but I would love to have a full solar system and not have to deal with gas and worry about it leaking or anything like that. All right, over here on the corner, we've got city water in, so if you ever are at a campground and you need constant water access, you can connect it up right here. And then this is gray water out, so any water you've used in the sink will come out this port, and typically most people attach a hose to this and the gray water runs out to the ground beneath the truck. Right here, this is how you fill up your freshwater tank, and this camper does have a 15-gallon freshwater tank. Here is your propane access. I've already taken it out just to clean and stuff. I've got a lot more cleaning to do. And this is your shore power line. So this is how, if you're at a campground or like now at a house, you can connect up to the power there. And this one is a 120, but I think it's a 20 amp plug or a 30 amp supply. So you can adapt it to use smaller traditional American plugs if you need to. But this is how you power the camper if you're in a campground situation. This is the part that's seen the most wear, just because this is the front-facing part on the truck, which gets all of the road rocks and the things hitting it all the time. So it definitely needs to be repainted. That's going to be one of the first few projects we do to this thing. Down here you can see the little access window, and one cool thing is when this is sitting in the truck, that window lines up right here. So in the rearview mirror you actually do have a view all the way out the back of the camper, and you can see traffic if you need to. It's actually pretty nice. Over on the passenger side you have a long window that will actually pop out a little bit for ventilation. Got the pop-up, and you can get a glimpse of the AC on top here. Actually, before I go inside, I'll give you an idea of what I'm going to be pulling this with. This is a 2009 four-wheel drive, stick shift, super based out model Tacoma. I got it for a really good deal when I was living in Denver and actually had an income working at Farrell. The nice thing is it's fully paid off and it's got low mileage. It's super reliable. It's been a great truck so far. It gets okay gas mileage, around 18 combined, I think, maybe 17. So not ideal. I wish it got a lot more. Anyways, let's check out the inside of the camper here. Like I said, if you have questions, just let me know. Watch your heads. Okay, this is what the inside looks like. Actually, I'll start with the door here, which I failed to shut. So we've got a little half-size door here that you crawl up into it with. So let's start with the couch. Pretty simple concept. It's a couch, but it's actually really nice because you can pull this little tray out, lay the cushions down, and turn this into an extra bed. So in theory, you could sleep two up there, one down here. I don't know why you would want to do that, but if you had to, you could. Another sweet thing is, when this is not popped up, the top of the camper sits right down on here. And if you really had to, you could pull up into a parking lot or something where you really wanted to be stealthy, walk or crawl into the back door and sleep up on top of this. Or if you needed to sleep two, pull this out, lay it down, sleep two people on here with the top down. So it can be very stealthy, because not a lot of people are going to think you're camping in a camper when it's not popped up like that. And I didn't really mention that, but that was another huge selling point. Because this thing can pop up, when it's popped down, it's very low profile, and hopefully that'll mean a lot less drag on the truck, and I can maintain some of my mile per gallon. In this central kind of step-up area, you've got the back window, which is a pass-through to the truck, although my truck does not have a pass-through on the back. Down here, you've got an AC plug and some storage. Right now, there's but a cassette toilet in there. I don't know if I'll keep that there or not. To the right, there is a little more storage, but right after that is the 15-gallon water tank, which is a fresh water tank. And on the left side here is the whole kitchen. Here is a Dometic fridge. It's a three-way, like I mentioned. Ultimately, I'd like to replace it with a much more efficient one that can run more appropriately on solar, but we'll see what this draws. I haven't actually tested it yet. This is kind of the electrical panel with the fuses and the breakers for the camper. This is just a little bit of storage. It is pretty shallow because right behind that is the actual propane tank area. Then over here you've got a propane furnace, which I don't really think I'll need. I know in the winter it's going to get cold. I think what we can do is run a Mr. Buddy heater, which is like a little portable propane heater for those winter months, and not have to dedicate all of this space, and the space above it is actually taken up a little bit, to this furnace. I'd rather have that for storage. Got a plug here, a pop-down drawer. You can see in there right now are cranks for the jacks and some of the gray water tubes, but ultimately that'll be a lot more open. Up here, a little pull-out drawer. This is where the water pump turns on and off. And the water pump pumps your fresh water through the sink here. I don't have it turned on right now. Here is 2-burner propane stove. Ultimately, I would love to go to an induction burner and run it off solar, but that'll take a lot of solar, so we'll see if that happens. Yeah, that's kind of the gist of this side. You've got your fire extinguisher down there. And these are interesting. These are actually ports into the truck bed when it's mounted. But right now, they just go out into the open. Those will let you store, like, I'm thinking wet shoes or wet things. It can be slid out into the truck when they need to be. And the final but crowning jewel of this camper, the bed. I believe it's 50 something inches wide. I haven't actually measured it yet. Looks to be like a full-size bed, so it can comfortably sleep two as long as you know each other. So yeah, pretty basic mattress. Ultimately, I'd like to have a more compact memory foam one, but we'll see if the budget allows for that. Underneath it, this is actually how you crank up the camper. So when the top is sitting down, you insert this little geared cog in there with the crank handle and crank it up, and it'll slowly pop up until it latches in right over here to make sure it doesn't come down on you. It does take a little more cranking power than probably a traditional pop-up would, but it's not bad at all. Anyone could definitely do it. I guess I didn't mention, got these drop-down cabinets that actually go up and down with the top of the camper here, so that adds a nice little extra bit of storage. But my favorite part of this by far is the underbed storage. So this is on gas struts. So if you just pop it up, you've got a ton of extra storage down here. And I do think that's going to be a limiting factor for this truck camper, is how much can we actually fit in it. I know Tara and I don't have a lot, we're pretty minimalist, but like if you include climbing gear, backpacking gear, clothing, all of the stuff we'll need on our travels, it's going to be pretty limited here. And because this is taking up the truck bed, what we have in here and what we have in the back cab of the truck is basically all the storage we'll have. There's your storage there. Only thing left to talk about, well, I guess these are DC lights. Obviously, we're going to convert them all over to LED to save electricity and not heat up the camper. But the last thing is this big honking AC unit. I'll say this, it's really hot right now in North Carolina, and this has been incredible for working on the inside of this thing. It cools it off super fast, and it gets cold in here. I believe this is probably pretty oversized for this size of a camper or space. But I just don't think it's going to be efficient enough to run it off solar. I don't know. Ultimately, I may have to replace it with like a fantastic fan or one of those fans you see on vans all the time, just so I can actually run it off of a lower wattage system. But we'll see. I guess we can test it and find out. So it's actually not too loud, but I have to imagine it's taking a lot of power to cool this much. Oh, there are some table mounts, so you can mount a little sit-up table if you need one for the bench area. Well, that's the tour. Like I said, if you have any questions I didn't address, feel free to leave them in the comments and I'll get back to you. I hope you're as excited as I am about this build and where it's going to take us. Hopefully some cool adventures are coming. Anyways, thanks for tuning in.